Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. In this video I'm just going to compare the 80D versus the 90D. In this video I'm just going to give you a brief breakdown. I'm not going to go through all the specs because there are other videos online for that. But in this video I just want to give you my thoughts on my reasoning why I decided to upgrade from the 80D to the 90D. So at the moment I have sold this and it'll be going to a new owner because I've decided to upgrade to the 90D. So basically these two cameras are crop sensor cameras. Now the 80D has 24 megapixels and the 90D has 33. So obviously you're getting more megapixels, it means you'll get more detail, especially if you're cropping in, if you're doing wildlife photography like I do. There are a few extra controls on the back. If I just turn them over, as you can see here, just turn that over the screen. The main differences that I can tell that is significant on the back of these cameras is a joystick for changing various options. You can navigate the menu, you can change your autofocus points, you know, even do your autofocus with that, but essentially they're pretty much identical in terms of how they look at the back. Both have got the dial for changing your settings. If we just turn them over like so, basically it's got all the same controls from what I can tell. It's pretty much identical. So why would you want to upgrade, you might be asking? The main reasons for this is you get 4K video in the 90D. Now the full sensor readout of the 4K is dumbed down a little bit just to make sure it doesn't overheat. So you're getting probably about 85% of 4K video on the 90D. However, you can use the crop mode, which crops in a little bit, and it doesn't give you a full readout of the entire sensor, and that gives you 100% of 4K, but obviously it crops in, so you do lose some of the wide angle capability of any lens you put on there when you use the crop mode. But if you use, and that may have a tendency over a long period of time to overheat as well. But however, in the full frame mode of 4K, it should not overheat, and you should be fine with that. Obviously this camera can do 11 frames per second in terms of fast action, frames per second, where the 80D can only do 7. And obviously they've both got the same sort of autofocus system, which is 45 cross type, all cross type points for autofocus. And obviously what you will find is with every new generation of camera, the sensor is about one stop greater in sensitivity. So what you'll find is even in the dynamic range, you will get a greater dynamic range capability in the new camera. The main reason for me wanting to upgrade is the fact that this camera can do 11 frames per second for fast action, so it becomes comparable to the 7D Mark II that I'm recording on right now, and obviously it doesn't match the 1DX in terms of its 12 or 14 frames per second, but it's not far off. And obviously it's a crop sensor camera, so you will have to take into account the 1.6 crop on any lens that you put on there. So basically any lens you get, even if it's a crop sensor lens, you'll have to times the focal length by 1.6. That'll give you your true 35mm equivalent focal length of what the lens will do in terms of the picture you take. So I've used the 80D for a long time and it's a fantastic camera, and I have no concerns with using it. It is great, it's fantastic, it's reliable, and to me, I just thought it would be better to upgrade now rather than leave it till later on. Both these cameras only have one card slot, so obviously it's you know, just one SD slot there for you. But what you'll find is these cameras are both capable. You know, there's nothing wrong with the 80D. The 80D, in my opinion, is just as good as the 90D, except it can't do 11 frames per second, it can't do 4K video, and it's not quite as sensitive to low light as the 90D is. But apart from those things, I think the 80D is fine for most circumstances. And because people like me are upgrading to the 90D, you'll be able to get a bargain for the 80D, because I've just sold this on eBay for £450. Now I believe I paid $800 brand new for this. So I got this for £1,050, as you can see the box here, which is the EFS 18-135 IS USM kit. So I got the kit lens included in that, but I got a fantastic deal on eBay, because like most things, if you go to the normal retailers, they charge a lot of money. So don't be too concerned or worried about possibly buying second hand, because I bought loads of lenses and cameras second hand, including this 7D Mark II that we're recording on now. I got that for about £650, and I thought I'd try it out today and see how it does with recording video. So I just wanted to discuss the 80D's capabilities as well as the 90D's. They're very similar cameras. You know, if we just turn it over, hopefully you can see that in the video, as I've already showed you. They're very similar in terms of what they look like on the back. The main difference is this joystick button that is on the 5D Mark IV, 5D Mark III, 7D Mark II, I think it's on the 7D as well. And I think what Canon decided to do, instead of coming out with a 7D Mark III, which everyone was really wanting to come out, because the advantage of the 7D Mark II is it has 61 autofocus points, where these only have 45. And some comparisons that I've watched and looked at of the 7D Mark II versus these cameras is these don't tend to autofocus quite as well as the 7D Mark II. But then again, you've got to remember, you've got a better sensor, it's better sensitivity in this camera, and I think what Canon's tried to do is compromise a little bit. They decided we're not going to come out with a 7D Mark III, but we're going to amalgamate the 80D and a newer version of it, and combine that with something to replace the 7D Mark III, or what would be the 7D Mark III, and get rid of the 80D and replace that at the same time. So basically kill two birds with one stone. So obviously this is like a half and half. It's like a 7D Mark II and a half, and it's like an 80D plus. So that's essentially what the 90D is. So I'm looking forward to trying it out, because it's going to be 11 frames per second, super fast for action. But I just wanted to do a quick video to tell you why I've decided to upgrade, what I think are the main differences between these two cameras. Yes, there are a lot more extras included in the 90D, a lot more features as well. The thing is though, I don't want to go through all the specs individually because there's a lot of them. But the main gist that you need to get across to yourself looking at this video is what are the main differences. The main differences is going to be 4K video, 11 frames a second versus 7, because you've got 7 on the 80D, and better ISO rating by probably one stop, and better dynamic range. And that's ultimately the main differences. And as I've just said, they've added the joystick that a lot of people were complaining about because they wanted a joystick on there so they can quickly change autofocus. To be honest, I don't think that's a big deal, because both these cameras are touchscreen, so you can touch where you want to focus, and it's brilliant. The reason I wanted to get the 90D and upgrade was because I wanted 4K video, but I could have got rid of these cameras, the 80D altogether, and just kept the 7D Mark II as well as the EOS R that I've recently unboxed. Check that video out if you want to see it. Please like this video, it helps the YouTube algorithms for people to find this content, and subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy the work that I do and the advice I give, because you know I've got many videos on lenses and cameras. So you know, like I was saying, back to the cameras, they're both reliable, they're both useful. I love the fact that they have dual pixel autofocus as well. So what that means is you can touch on the screen and tell it where to focus, and if you decide you want it to focus on something else, touch it a bit over on the screen, and it's really handy. And as well as for vlogging cameras, you know, you just pull the screen out like so, and you have yourself on the screen, you know, and you watch yourself, make sure it's in focus, and this is why these are perfect vlogging cameras. And if you're interested in terms of my recommendations for getting lenses for these, if you're just starting out, that is, I would recommend something like the 10 to 18 STM lens, the 18 to 55 STM lens, and the 55 to 250 STM telephoto lens. Get those three and you'll be set up. You know, yes, you can buy L lenses that are significantly better and will give you a bit of sharper result, but you're talking about spending probably 10 times what you would have spent on those three lenses I've just mentioned, and only getting 10% better image quality. So remember that. If you know, I know L lenses are nice and they're solid and they feel great to use, and they have a good manual ring for manual focus on there, as well as a large zoom ring. The problem is they only give you about 10 or 15% better image quality, and they tend to cost 5 to 10 times more money. An example is say an equivalent 24 to 70 lens compared to say the 18 to 55 STM lens. The 24 to 70 L lens would probably cost you something like £1,200, where the 18 to 55 you could pick that up for maybe, I don't know, maybe £100. So there is a big price difference when it comes to L lenses versus the EFS lenses that you can get for these cameras. And when you do use full frame L lenses on these cameras, you need to make sure that you take into account the crop factor, which will make those lenses not quite as wide. So a 24mm could be something like I don't know, 35 to 105 or something like that, instead of a 24 to 70. That's just a basic rundown on putting L lenses on these cameras. But the EFS lenses are fine. I don't have any problems with them. I've got plenty of EFS lenses myself. I think they're good enough in quality. Years ago, kit lenses were considered soft and poor and pretty much rubbish. But nowadays, they're really solid. I don't have any problems with my lenses, especially using the EFS Canon lenses. So I hope this video gives you a bit of a rundown on these two cameras. I don't want to go and confuse you with all the specifications. I just want to give you a basics idea of what the differences are between the 80D and 90D. So to summarize, basically you've got on the 90D 4K video, 11 frames per second, better ISO and dynamic range, and essentially that's the main differences really. For me, doing video, you know, being able to do 4K is fantastic. Yes, there are other cameras out there that can do 4K, but you're talking about spending a lot more money. So typically speaking, you'll be able to pick up the 90D here from a retailer for around £1,600. or the Canon website for 1600. But if you're savvy and you look around, you would probably be able to pick it up for between 1200 and 1400 pound if you shop around. The 80D, you're likely to pick that up for around 900 pound new, probably. But again, if you're more than happy to go second hand, you probably pick that up for about 400, 500 pound. So I hope this video helps you out deciding what these cameras can do, and hopefully I didn't go on too long about it, but you know, don't be worried about going for crop center cameras versus full frame. Yes, and I realise there's a lot of videos and a lot of news about the R5 and R6 full frame mirrorless Canon cameras that have come out recently. The problem is, have you got £4,000 to throw at the R5 or £2,500 to throw at the R6? Or would you be happy getting the 90D for about £1,200, or even the 80D? Because if you're not bothered about 4K video and you're not bothered about having super fast frames per second, and 7 frames per second is good enough, get the 80D. It's a fantastic camera. Autofocus is great, and I've never had any problems with this camera at all. If any of you guys have watched some of my content, you may know that I did a garage conversion in my garage, and I put a pool table in my garage, and all the videos were shot on the 80D. So it's more than capable of doing anything you want it to do. So, you know, I hope to see you in the next video, but both these cameras will service you well, and happy taking pictures. Thank you. Bye bye.